It's a drizzly Wednesday afternoon in late September, the kind that makes your bones ache before you even step out of the van. I'm parked outside a nondescript brick walk-up on the fraying edge of Scranton, Pennsylvania, staring at the label on my last delivery of a 12-hour shift. A. Reynolds, Design Consult, Apt 3B. No elevator. Of course there's no elevator. I shoulder the 60-pound flat-screen TV box, my back screaming from wrestling appliance crates all day into a Ford Transit that reeks of damp cardboard and exhaust. The stairs are slick with tracked-in rain, and my calves burn by the time I hit the third floor. I ring the bell, trying to catch my breath. The door cracks open. Mid-30s guy, tousled dark hair, faded Pearl Jam tee hugging a soft middle. He's got that effortless, creative vibe I've always envied. The kind of guy who works from home in his pajamas while I'm out here destroying my spine for $18 an hour, plus mileage. Perfect, he says, grinning as I haul the box inside. Amy promised it'd land today for the game setup this weekend. I freeze, scanner dangling from my hand. Amy? The guy blinks, then laughs it off. Awkward, like a fumbled handoff. Yeah, she placed the order through her freelance portal. Said it'd tie into the promo reel edits. She's a wizard with those mood boards. He shrugs, nudging the door. Appreciate the haul, man. Click. Shut. I trudge down the stairs, rain speckling my cap, mind snagging on that name like tape on a box cutter. Amy. My Amy. The 37-year-old graphic designer who'd kissed me goodbye that morning over lukewarm coffee, laptop already open for client revisions in our cramped home office. She'd mentioned a videographer collab last month. Promo spots for a startup, nothing big. But Reynolds? Not a syllable. I shook it off in the van, clocked the mileage for reimbursement. Client mention, routine prop order, right? Dinner that night was drive-through burgers, grease seeping through wrappers as Sophie chattered about art class. My 11-year-old was animated, waving a French fry like a conductor's baton. Dad, the finger paints looked like alien goo. Mrs. Patterson said mine was the goopiest. That's my girl, I said, unwrapping my burger. Champion of goop. Amy pecked at her fries, screen glowing beside her plate. She didn't even look up when I came in. Just that quick glance, the one that used to linger. Long haul? She asked, eyes flicking up for half a second. I took a bite, chewed slowly. Yeah. Drop that TV for Reynolds, your videographer pal? Sweet view, Parkside Digs. Her fork hovered. Be too long. Oh, Alex. Yeah, the reel's wrapping. Needs the screen for color grading. She stabbed a fry. Forgot to mention. Smile. But it didn't crease her eyes, not like when she sketched Sophie's monster family portraits on Sunday mornings. Sophie tugged her sleeve. Mom, draw the goo alien later. Amy ruffled her hair. After homework, bug. That night, I lay awake listening to rain patter on the roof. Amy's breaths were even beside me, but my brain wouldn't shut off. Amy promised it'd be here. Not the client ordered it. She promised. At 1:52 a.m., I slid out of bed and grabbed my phone from the nightstand. The delivery app still had the scan photo, receipt time-stamped. I pulled up the order form and there it was. A glitch in the system showing purchaser details. A. Reynolds, CC'd to AR Design, invoice, Dutcher GR 4782. AR Amy's professional initials. She'd switched to her maiden name for freelance work last year. Brand fresh start, she'd joked. I pulled up my phone's photos, scrolled to a shot I'd taken of the fridge last week, Sophie's spelling test, a grocery list, and a stack of Post-its with client sync numbers. Invoice Arger GR 4782 was on the third Post-it from the top. No storm. Just a chill draft I couldn't shake. I sat up in bed, thumbs flying across the screen. Alex Reynolds, videographer, Scranton. Hit. Portfolio site, alexrayfilms.com. Thumbnails of moody reels, corporate gloss, wedding whimsy. I clicked through, my stomach tightening with each frame. Then I found it. Collab teaser, parkside vibes. Grainy clip. Autumn leaves rustling, and Amy's laugh. I'd know it anywhere, trilling off screen. The camera panned, and there she was, steadying Alex's hand as he framed a shot. Caption below. Syncing visions with AR, chaos to canvas. Design duo. Not tangled limbs, not proof of anything, but that lean in, that shared quip in her glance. The way her fingers lingered on his wrist, it landed like a parcel dropped on toes. Dawn grayed the blinds. I called in back strain, believable after those stares, and got Sophie off to school with her crayons crammed in her backpack. Amy was rinsing mugs when I came back inside, dressed for her day. "Lunch with Alex," she said, zipping her tote. "Final tweaks on the reel." I leaned against the counter, phone open to the clip. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Alex, park views, TV for his setup. Her zipper stalled. I turned the screen toward her. Paused on that tilt, her head angled toward his, laughing at something I'd never hear. This the collab? Or the one where deadlines got distant? Amy sank onto the kitchen stool, tote going limp in her lap. For a long moment, she just stared at the frozen frame. Then she looked at me, and something cracked behind her eyes. "Dave. Damn it." She exhaled hard. Yeah, 2 months. The kitchen went quiet except for the drip of the faucet. "Started as post-pitch drinks," she continued, voice flat. "Venting about flaky clients. Then he sees the mess, you know? No judgment, just breath." She picked at the tote strap. "I used the work card for props, kept threads separate, thought it'd stay shelved." "Shelved," I repeated. "Sophie, us." Her voice splintered. I didn't want to unbox it all. I turned away, hands trembling as I poured coffee. Black. 2 mugs, out of habit. "Sophie idolizes your doodles," I said. "Not the ones sneaking screens for setups that aren't ours." I set a mug in front of her. We sat there as rain softened to mist outside, her phone pinging with a client nudge. She silenced it without looking. "Now what?" she asked. I stared at my coffee. "I don't know." No explosion, just the slow unpack of a life mislabeled. Day 1 of whatever this was. I skipped my route again, strains acting up, and sat Sophie at breakfast with her sketchpad. "Draw your monster family today?" she beamed. "With extra tentacles?" "Always extra tentacles." Amy lingered in the kitchen, eyes puffy. "Client call soon. Alex's tweaks." She said his name like it was a splinter she couldn't pull out. I nodded, neutral as I could manage. "Take the van if you need. I'll bus it." She hesitated, grabbed her tote, kissed Sophie's head. "Be good, bug." Door clicked shut. I waited 10 minutes. Then I grabbed my keys and followed in my beater Civic. Her Prius didn't head toward the design firm. It detoured to a coffee shop near Alex's building, the same one I'd delivered to yesterday. I idled across the street, engine running, watching through rain-streaked glass. 20 minutes later, they emerged. Her tote slung over her shoulder, his hand grazing her back as they laughed over a sketchpad. No kiss, no embrace, just that easy intimacy that twisted something in my chest. I drove home before Sophie got off the bus. That night, while Amy scrolled through her phone and Sophie practiced her spelling words, I sat at my laptop and opened our shared family Dropbox. We'd set it up years ago for vacation photos and school projects. I navigated to Amy's client folders. Most of it was legitimate: logo designs, marketing materials, invoices. But nested 3 folders deep, I found a subfolder labeled AR Promos. Inside, promo reels with Alex's watermark. Notes in Amy's handwriting, scanned. "Love your lens on this, late chat?" Dated 6 months back, right after that network mixer I'd encouraged her to attend for her portfolio. I scrolled further. Found a prop list I'd assumed was for Sophie's school project. It wasn't Sophie's. Sophie's doodles had always been our barometer. When things were good, she drew rainbows in our house with smoke curling from the chimney. When things were tense, the monsters got bigger. That Friday, she showed me her latest at dinner while Amy was freshening up upstairs. "It's Mom's monster friend," Sophie explained, pointing to a figure with wild dark hair and a camera around its neck. "He draws funny. Mom giggles on calls with him." My throat tightened. "Like your art class friends?" "Mm-hmm. But I saw them hug at pickup last week." She colored in a purple tentacle, casual as anything. "Mom said don't tell Dad. Surprise doodle." I set down my fork. "What kind of surprise?" "Dunno," she shrugged. "Secret friend stuff." Amy came back downstairs, and I watched her pour herself wine with hands that weren't quite steady. She caught me looking and raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Nothing." I looked back at Sophie's drawing. "Just admiring the tentacles." The next few days, I became someone I didn't recognize. I called it errands. In reality, I was parked near Alex's building, watching Amy's Prius come and go. Coffee runs that stretched into walks, hands brushing over sketch pads, silhouettes gesturing over laptops through third-floor windows. I photographed what I could from the street. Nothing invasive, just timestamps. Evidence that her client meetings weren't what she claimed. One night after Sophie's bedtime, I followed Amy to Alex's building. Her Prius parked out front at 7:43 p.m., lights on in his unit. Through the window, I could see them moving around, pouring wine, laughing, settling onto his couch. I idled 2 blocks away for 45 minutes, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Watched her leave at 8:30, their hug at the door lingering 3 seconds too long. "Lens on us," I muttered to myself. Still sketching shadows. Day 4, I made a call. My warehouse buddy Marcus had gone through a divorce 2 years back. Ugly one with kids and lawyers and the whole parade. Over coffee in the break room, he'd mentioned a PI who'd helped him document everything. "Nora Hale," he said, scribbling a number on a napkin. "Not cheap, but she's legit. Won't break any laws, won't make you look crazy in court. Just gets the truth on paper." I called her that afternoon from the parking lot of a gas station, engine idling. "Mr. Harlan." Her voice was calm, professional. "Tell me what you're dealing with." I told her. Everything. The delivery, the clip, the Dropbox, Sophie's drawings. She listened without interrupting. "$95 an hour," she said when I finished. "I do surveillance, public records, pattern analysis. No hacking, no entrapment, nothing that'll get thrown out in court. And if I'm wrong? Then you're wrong, and you've got peace of mind." She paused. "But based on what you're telling me, Mr. Harlan, you're not wrong." My first therapy session was that Thursday evening, a clinic near the hospital, recommended by my insurance. The therapist was a guy named Doug, early 50s, glasses, the kind of beard professors grow. He didn't take notes, just listened. "I want to smash her laptop," I admitted, somewhere around the 20-minute mark. "Every time I see her working on those client revisions, I want to throw it out the window." "But you haven't." "Sophie was in the room." Doug nodded slowly. "So you're holding the frame." "What?" "The frame of your family. The structure. Even while it's cracking, you're holding it." I stared at the carpet. I don't know how much longer I can hold it. That's what we're here to figure out. Week 2. Nora delivered her first report. Printed, bound, professional. She'd tracked Amy's movements through public observation, cross-referenced her calendar with Alex's social media posts. The patterns were damning. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Nora said, spreading photos across my kitchen table while Sophie was at school. She tells you she's at the design firm, but her car's at his building sometimes for 3 hours. I flipped through the photos. Amy walking into Alex's lobby. Amy and Alex at a park bench, heads bent together. Amy getting into her Prius at 9 p.m., lipstick smudged. There's more. Nora pulled out a printout. Her freelance invoices. She's been overbilling a client called AR Productions for prop hours. $1,600 over the past 3 months for equipment she claims is for work. It's going to him. That's my read, yes. I sat back, photographs scattered in front of me like wreckage. What now? Now we document. For the next few weeks, I'll build a timeline. When you're ready to talk to an attorney, you'll have everything you need. The confrontation came sooner than I'd planned. Sophie came home from school that Friday with a sticker on her backpack, a little cartoon camera with a winking lens. I'd never seen it before. Where'd you get that, bug? Alex gave it to me. She peeled it off, admiring it. When he picked up Mom from school the other day, he said it was our secret. My vision tunneled. Your secret? Mom said not to tell you 'cause you'd be jealous of her work friend. She stuck the sticker on her notebook. But you're not jealous, right, Dad? I drove to the park near our house, texted Amy. We need to talk, now. Bring Sophie's backpack. She showed up 20 minutes later, Sophie's backpack in hand, confusion crinkling her forehead. What's going on? I was in the middle of... I held up the sticker. Sophie's your doodle deputy now? Amy's face went pale. Dave, that's just what? Kid imagination? I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. The reels say rendering, Amy. The invoices say prop hours. And now my daughter's keeping secrets with your boyfriend. He's not my... Don't. My jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. Don't lie to me anymore. She stood there, backpack limp in her hands, mouth opening and closing like she'd forgotten how words worked. I'm filing for temporary support, I said. You'll get the papers next week. Dave, please. You made Sophie a co-conspirator. We're done talking. I walked back to my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Amy came into the bedroom where I was packing a bag. She stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. Where are you going? Marcus's couch, for a few nights. Dave, we can work this out. It was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. I shoved a shirt into the duffel. A mistake is missing a turn. 2 months of sneaking around, using our daughter as your alibi, funneling our money to your boyfriend's production company? That's not a mistake, Amy. That's a choice. A whole series of choices. He's not my boyfriend. I stopped packing, turned to face her. Then what is he? She opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes were wet, but I'd stopped feeling moved by her tears somewhere around hour 3 of that first sleepless night. That's what I thought. I zipped the bag and walked past her, down the stairs, into the garage. She followed me, desperate now. What about Sophie? What do I tell her? I paused at the car door. Tell her Daddy had an early shift. Tell her whatever you want. You're good at making up stories. The garage door was still rolling up when I backed out into the night. Marcus's couch was lumpy and smelled vaguely of beer, but it was better than lying next to Amy pretending everything was normal. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a pillow and said, TV's all yours if you can't sleep. I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I texted Nora. Need to move faster. What's next? Her reply came within minutes. Lawyer consultation. I'll send you names in the morning. Get some rest. Rest. Right. I stared at the ceiling until dawn crept through the blinds, then drove to work with coffee I didn't taste and a headache that wouldn't quit. The lawyer's office was on the third floor of a renovated building downtown. Frank DeMatteo, family law. His receptionist was a no-nonsense woman named Doris, who offered me coffee and a sympathetic look. "Mr. DeMatteo will see you in 5 minutes, Mr. Harlan." I sat in the waiting room, surrounded by magazines I didn't read and motivational posters I didn't believe. A clock ticked somewhere. The coffee was weak. Frank was a heavy-set man in his 60s with a firm handshake and eyes that had seen every kind of domestic disaster. He gestured me into a chair across from his desk. "Mr. Harlan, your investigator sent over the preliminary documentation." He tapped a manila folder. "Want to tell me your side?" So I told him. The delivery. The clip. The invoices. Sophie's stickers. All of it. He listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he set down his pen. "Pennsylvania's a no-fault divorce state," he said. "Means adultery doesn't automatically tank her in court. But what you've described, using your daughter to cover for her activities, financial dissipation through those fake invoices, that matters, especially in custody decisions. I want Sophie. Then we build a case for that. Your investigator's work is solid. The timeline, the documentation, the pattern of behavior. It paints a picture of a parent who prioritized her affair over her child's well-being. What about the money? The $1,600 she funneled to Alex? That's dissipation. Marital funds spent on an affair. The court can consider that when dividing assets." He leaned back. "Here's what I need you to do. Keep documenting. Don't confront her again. Anything you say can be used in mediation. Focus on Sophie. Be the stable parent. And if Amy tries to turn Sophie against me? Document that too. If there's evidence of parental alienation, the court takes it seriously." I nodded, feeling the weight of what was coming settle onto my shoulders. "One more thing," Frank said. "Don't do anything stupid. No breaking into Alex's apartment, no confronting him in public, no angry text to Amy that she can screenshot. You want to win this? Stay clean." "I will." "Good." He stood, extending his hand. "Welcome to the worst phase of your life, Mr. Harlan. Let's make sure it ends right." I moved back home 3 days later, for Sophie's sake. Separate bedrooms. Polite nods in the hallway. The careful choreography of two people who couldn't stand to be in the same room. Amy tried a few times to corner me into conversation. "Dave, can we just talk?" Or, "I think if we went to counseling?" I deflected every attempt with the same line. "Talk to your lawyer." She started crying at dinner one night, right in front of Sophie. Just broke down into her spaghetti, shoulders shaking. Sophie looked at me with wide eyes. "Dad? Hey, Bug. Why don't you take your plate to the living room? Pick a movie. I'll be right there." She grabbed her bowl and scurried out. I sat across from Amy, watching her fall apart. "This isn't fair," she managed between sobs. "I made a mistake. People make mistakes." "People make mistakes," I agreed. "People don't make their kids keep secrets from their other parent. People don't funnel family money into hotel rooms and prop hours. That's not a mistake, Amy. That's a plan." "I love Sophie." "Then act like it." I stood up. "The mediator's going to want to see good faith effort. Show up. Cooperate. Don't make this harder than it has to be." I walked out, leaving her crying alone at the table. Was it cruel? Maybe. But I'd used up all my sympathy somewhere around that third sleepless night. The next month was a blur of lawyers and mediations and sleepless nights. Pennsylvania mandates mediation before divorce proceedings, an attempt to save marriages that are past saving. Amy and I sat in a conference room with a mediator named Ruth, a gray-haired woman with reading glasses on a chain, trying to carve up a life we'd spent 12 years building. "Mr. Harlan, you're claiming emotional and financial dissipation?" She funneled $1,600 to her affair partner through fake invoices. I slid Nora's documentation across the table. It's all there. Amy's lawyer, a young guy with too much gel in his hair, leaned in. My client disputes the characterization of these expenses as they're categorized as prop hours for AR Productions, I interrupted. Her affair partner's production company. What props cost $1,600? Mr. Harlan, Ruth said, her tone patient but firm. Let's keep the discussion focused. I sat back. Sorry. My client acknowledges that there were emotional entanglements during the marriage. The gel-haired lawyer continued smoothly. But she maintains that her focus has always been on the well-being of the child. The child she made keep secrets from me? Amy finally spoke up. That's not fair, Dave. I was trying to protect Sophie from what? The truth? I turned to Ruth. My daughter drew pictures of Mom's monster friend. She told me about hugs at school pickup. She said her mother told her not to tell me about surprise doodles. What does that sound like to you? Ruth made a note. We'll address parenting concerns in the custody evaluation. This is ridiculous, Amy muttered. I'm a good mother. Good mothers don't use their kids as cover stories. The session ended without resolution. 3 hours of going in circles, and we were right back where we started. Walking to my car afterward, I saw Amy and her lawyer huddled by a silver Audi. She was gesturing animatedly, probably complaining about what a monster I was being. The lawyer nodded along, checking his watch. I unlocked my Civic and was about to get in when my phone buzzed. Nora. Have an hour. Coffee shop on Main. Updates. I texted back. On my way. Nora was already there when I arrived, nursing a black coffee in a corner booth. She slid a folder across the table as I sat down. What's this? Calendar analysis. Cross-referenced Amy's work schedule with Alex's social media check-ins and your family calendar. I opened the folder. Pages of dates, times, locations. A map with colored pins. Photos I'd seen before and some I hadn't. She's been more careful lately, Nora said. No more Prius parked outside his building. But they're still meeting, just smarter about it. Where? Park off Route 6. Coffee shop in Wilkes-Barre. Once at a hotel near the airport. That one's interesting. She tapped a photo. She paid cash, but Alex posted a photo from the hotel bar on Instagram. Timestamp matches. I stared at the photo. Alex grinning, wine glass raised. And in the background, blurry but unmistakable, Amy's reflection in the bar mirror. How do you feel about testifying? Nora asked. If this goes to trial? I'll do whatever it takes. Good. She closed the folder. Because I think it's going to trial. She's not cooperating in mediation. Her lawyer's stalling. They're hoping you'll get tired and settle. I'm not settling. Didn't think so. She took a sip of her coffee. One more thing. The organizer of that networking event? Carla? She's been helpful. Helpful how? Apparently Alex has a reputation in the design community. He's done this before. Targeted married women at these events. Carla's got stories. Can she testify? She can provide an affidavit, character evidence, helps establish a pattern. I exhaled slowly. This is really happening, isn't it? It's been happening for a while, Mr. Harlan. Now it's just documented. Week 5. Nora's final surveillance report landed in my email with an attachment that made my stomach drop. I was at work, on break in the warehouse office when I opened it. The report was thorough as always. Dates, times, locations. But the attachment was new. A photo, shot from a parking lot across the street from Alex's building. Amy getting out of her Prius at 8:47 p.m. Alex meeting her at the curb. And then, the part that made me grip my phone so hard my knuckles went white, the two of them walking into his building, his hand on the small of her back, her head tilted toward him, laughing. The timestamp was from last Thursday, the same night she'd told me she had a client emergency. I called Frank's office from the parking lot. "Mr. Harlan," his receptionist said, "Mr. DeMatteo is in court this morning, but I need to see him today. It's urgent. I'll have him call you as soon as he's out. Is there anything I should—" "Just tell him I have new evidence, fresh photos, and I'm done playing nice." Frank called back at noon. I played him the voicemail 3 times before heading to his office. "You're sure about this?" he asked, studying the photos. "These are from last week?" "Thursday night, 8:47 p.m. She told me she was handling a client emergency. The client emergency was apparently his bedroom." Frank set down the photos. "Here's what this does for us. It proves the affair is ongoing. That matters because it shows she's not cooperating in good faith with mediation. She's not trying to reconcile. She's trying to have her cake and eat it too." "What does that mean for custody?" "It strengthens your case. A lot. The court looks at which parent is more likely to support the child's relationship with the other parent. If she's actively carrying on an affair while claiming she wants to work things out, that's deception. And if she's teaching Sophie to keep secrets, parental alienation." "Exactly." He leaned back. "I'm going to push for an expedited custody evaluation. Gal interview with Sophie, psych eval for both parents. The longer this drags on, the worse it is for your daughter. Do it." "One more thing." Frank fixed me with a look. "Stay away from Alex. I know you want to confront him. I know you want to tell him exactly what you think of him. Don't. Nothing good comes from that." "What if I just—" "Nothing good comes from that." He said each word like a separate sentence. "You want to see your daughter every day? You want to tuck her in at night? Then stay clean. The best revenge is winning." I nodded. He was right. But that didn't make it any easier. The worst part was watching Amy try to spin it. In mediation, she blamed my routes. "He's gone 60 hours a week. I was lonely. Alex understood the creative process." I bit back a laugh. "The creative process? Is that what they're calling it now?" Ruth gave me a warning look. At home, Amy alternated between crying jags and cold fury. One night, she cornered me in the kitchen while Sophie was asleep. "You're trying to turn her against me." "I haven't said a word to Sophie about any of this." "Then why does she look at me like I'm a stranger?" "Maybe because you made her keep secrets from her father." I dried my hands on a dish towel. "Kids aren't stupid, Amy. They know when something's wrong. This isn't fair." I tossed the towel on the counter. "Neither was watching you walk into his apartment 6 times in 2 weeks." She went quiet at that, picked up her wine glass, left the room. Week 6. Nora delivered her final report, a bound document thicker than my thumb. "Timeline of every meeting I could verify," she said. Cross-referenced with her calendar, his social media, credit card receipts she left in plain view, plus affidavits from 3 people at that design meetup who saw them together. I flipped through the pages. Photo after photo, date after date, a methodical chronicle of my wife's double life. "There's one more thing," Nora hesitated. "The organizer of that networking event? She reached out to me, said Alex has a reputation." "What kind of reputation?" "Pattern behavior. She's seen him cycle through 3 different collaborators in the past 2 years, all married, all in the design field." Nora shook her head. "Your wife's not his first canvas." I don't know why that made it worse, but it did. Sophie started acting out in small ways. Nothing dramatic. She was still my sunshine girl. But I noticed things. She stopped asking Amy to draw with her, started hiding her sketch pad when Amy walked by. One night, during joint family therapy, the counselor asked Sophie to draw something that made her happy. She drew me and her at the park. No Amy anywhere. "Where's Mommy?" the counselor asked gently. Sophie shrugged. She's busy with her real friends. Amy's face crumpled. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. The therapist, a patient woman named Dr. Reeves, met with me privately after the session. Sophie's processing a lot of confusion right now, she said, leaning forward in her chair. She picked up on more than you realize. Children are observant. They notice when a parent is distracted, when phone calls become secretive, when dinner conversations feel forced. Is she going to be okay? With support and stability? Yes. But she needs consistency, regular routines, honest communication at an age-appropriate level, and a parent she can trust. What about Amy? Dr. Reeves chose her words carefully. Mrs. Harlan's involvement should be structured and predictable. Surprise visits, emotional outbursts, putting Sophie in the middle, those will slow the healing process. Putting her in the middle is what started this. I read the gal's preliminary notes. She nodded. The secret friend dynamic was harmful. Sophie internalized that she was responsible for protecting her mother's secret. That's a heavy burden for any child, let alone an 11-year-old. I thought about Sophie's drawing. Mom's monster friend with the camera around his neck. How long had she known? How long had she been carrying that weight? What do I tell her about what's happening? The truth, in simple terms. Mom and Dad are figuring out how to live in different houses. Sophie will have time with both of you. It's not her fault, and she's allowed to love both of you. Even if Amy made her keep secrets? Even then. Dr. Reeves met my eyes. Your job isn't to poison Sophie against her mother. Your job is to be stable, present, and honest. Let Amy's actions speak for themselves. The next few weeks were a careful dance. Sophie and I fell into a routine. Homework, dinner, bedtime stories. On weekends, we'd drive out to the park near Route 6 and she'd sketch the trees while I watched. Dad? She asked one Saturday, charcoal smudging her fingers. Why did Mom lie? I set down the thermos of hot chocolate I'd been pouring. That's a complicated question, Bug. I'm almost 12. I can handle complicated. Fair point. I sat down next to her on the picnic bench. Sometimes people make choices because they're unhappy, and instead of talking about it, they hide it. Your mom wasn't happy, and instead of telling me, she found someone else to talk to. Alex. Yeah, Alex. Sophie was quiet for a moment, adding shadow to a tree branch. Was it my fault? Because I kept the secret? My heart broke. No, absolutely not. Your mom put you in a position you never should have been in. That was her choice, not yours. I should have told you about the stickers. You were trying to protect your mom. That makes you a good kid, Sophie. Not a bad one. She leaned against my shoulder. I don't want to keep secrets anymore. Then don't. I kissed the top of her head. Secrets make everything harder. Let's just be honest with each other, okay? Okay. We sat there until the sun started to set, watching the shadows lengthen across the park. Month 2. The custody evaluation began. A guardian ad litem named Patricia came to interview Sophie, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes who specialized in representing children's interests. She talked to Sophie alone, then talked to me, then talked to Amy. Her preliminary report was cautious but clear. The child exhibits signs of mild parental alienation, primarily confusion about maternal honesty. Recommends continued therapy and stable environment with primary custodial parent. My lawyer, a seasoned family attorney named Frank, called me that night. This is good, Dave. Gal's leaning your way. It doesn't feel good. It never does. He paused. But you're building a solid case. The documentation, the financial records, the child statements. It's painting a picture. What picture? A mother who prioritized her affair over her kid. That matters in custody decisions. The thing about revenge is, you don't realize you're planning it until you're in the middle of it. I didn't set out to destroy Amy's career. I set out to protect Sophie. But somewhere along the way, those two things became the same thing. Nora had uncovered something interesting in her deep dive. Amy's freelance invoices weren't just ethically questionable, they were potentially fraudulent. The prop hours she'd billed to her own company had been filed on her taxes as business expenses, $1,600 in fake equipment for personal use. Not criminal, necessarily, but enough to trigger a client review if the right people found out. I mentioned it to Marcus over beers one night, not really expecting anything to come of it. "You know," he said, "my sister-in-law works at that design co-op downtown, the one that hosts those networking mixers." "Yeah?" She said the organizer's been looking for an excuse to clean house. Apparently, a few people have complained about poaching and boundary issues. Inappropriate collaborations, if you know what I mean. I knew exactly what he meant. The following Monday, I went back to work for the first time in 2 weeks. My back was fine, always had been, but I'd needed the time to get my head straight. Marcus found me in the break room, staring into a cup of cold coffee. "You look like garbage, Harlan." "Thanks, feel like it too." He sat down across from me. "Heard you and Amy are done." "News travels fast." "Warehouse gossip travels faster." He cracked open an energy drink. "She really stepped out on you?" 2 months, with a videographer she met at some networking thing." I rubbed my face. "Found out because I delivered a TV to his apartment. She'd ordered it for him." "That's cold." "Gets colder. She had Sophie keeping secrets for her. Little stickers, hugs at pickup. Don't tell Dad, it's a surprise." Marcus whistled low. "She used your kid?" "She used my kid." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus leaned forward. "Listen, I know a guy. My cousin's wife's brother. He's a family lawyer. Handles custody stuff. You want, I can get you his number." "Already got a lawyer, Frank DiMatteo." "DiMatteo? He's good. Handled my buddy's divorce last year. Guy got primary custody of 3 kids." Marcus nodded approvingly. "You're in good hands." "Hope so." "But Dave?" He waited until I met his eyes. "Don't let this break you. I've seen guys go through this and come out the other side like zombies. Work suffers, kids suffer, everything falls apart." He jabbed a finger at me. "You're better than that. Sophie needs you sharp." "I know." "Then get sharp." He stood up, crushing the empty energy drink can. "Supervisor's been asking about you. Said if you're ready, there's an opening on the day shift. Lead loader position. Better hours, better pay." "Day shift?" "Means you'd be home for dinner every night. School pickup, bedtime stories, the whole deal." I stared at him. "Why would he offer me that now?" "Because he's got eyes, Harlan. Knows you're going through something. Figures if he throws you a lifeline, you might stick around instead of burning out." Marcus shrugged. "Plus, you're good at your job. Don't act so surprised." I thought about Sophie, about being there when she got home from school, about not missing another bedtime story because I was stuck unloading trucks until midnight. "Tell him I'm interested." "Already did," Marcus grinned. "Interviews Thursday." The design meetup was a quarterly event. Collab and create, they called it. Local designers sharing work, networking, building connections. Amy had attended for years. It was where she'd met Alex. I didn't plan to attend, not directly. But Sophie had recently joined the school's art club, and one of the parent volunteers mentioned they were looking for adult sponsors. "We're doing a showcase," the volunteer said. "Kids display their work alongside professional mentors. The Collab and Create folks offered to host." I signed up the next day. The showcase was on a Saturday in early December. Sophie was nervous but excited, clutching her portfolio of monster drawings. What if they think my tentacles are dumb? Bug, your tentacles are legendary. Anyone who doesn't see that isn't worth your time. She grinned up at me. You're weird, Dad. Learned from the best. We set up her display in a corner of the venue, a converted warehouse space with exposed brick and track lighting. Professional designers milled around with wine glasses, admiring each other's work. Kids ran between the displays, high on juice boxes and validation. And there, across the room, was Amy. She spotted me at the same time I spotted her. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she pasted on a smile and walked over. Dave, I didn't know you'd be here. Sophie's showing her work. I nodded toward our display. Art Club Showcase. Right. She looked at Sophie's monsters, something complicated passing over her face. These are beautiful, Bug. Thanks, Mom. Sophie's voice was polite but cool. Dad helped me frame them. Amy flinched at that. Tiny, barely visible, but I caught it. Where's Alex? I asked, keeping my tone conversational. I figured he'd be here. Big networking opportunity. He couldn't make it. Shame. She gave me a look that could have curdled milk, then excused herself to talk to someone across the room. I didn't do anything dramatic that night. I didn't need to. The organizer, a woman named Carla who'd reached out to Nora weeks before, found me near the refreshment table. Mr. Harlan? She extended her hand. I've heard a lot about you. Good things, I hope. Depends on your perspective. She glanced toward Amy, who was laughing too loudly at someone's joke. Your investigator shared some interesting documentation, the invoice discrepancies, the pattern of behavior. I wasn't trying to cause problems. You didn't cause them. You documented them. She sipped her wine. We've had concerns about certain members for a while now. This just clarified things. What happens now? Internal review. Nothing dramatic, nothing public. But there will be consequences. She looked at me directly. Sometimes the truth is enough, Mr. Harlan. You don't have to destroy someone. You just have to let them destroy themselves. The divorce trial was in late January, 4 months after I delivered that TV to Alex Reynolds. Lackawanna County Court, Judge Patricia Henley presiding. Amy on one side with her gel-haired lawyer. Me on the other with Frank. The evidence laid out was brutal. Nora's timeline. The invoice forensics. Sophie's drawings and therapy records. The gal's recommendation. Affidavits from 3 meetup attendees who'd witnessed Amy and Alex's professional relationship in action. Amy's lawyer tried the absent father angle. Mr. Harlan worked 60-hour weeks. My client was the primary caregiver. Your client made her 11-year-old keep secrets from her father, Frank interrupted. That's not caregiving. That's manipulation. The judge raised an eyebrow. Let's keep the editorializing to a minimum, counselors. But I could see it landing. The evidence wasn't just about Amy cheating. It was about the choices she'd made. Using Sophie as cover. Funneling family money to her affair partner. Lying, over and over, while I worked 60 hours a week to keep us afloat. Amy took the stand on day 2. Her lawyer walked her through a rehearsed narrative about loneliness and creative connection, and emotional needs not being met. Frank's cross-examination was surgical. Mrs. Harlan, when you told your daughter not to tell her father about Alex's secret, what did you mean? It was just about a surprise for a surprise. Right. And when you billed $1,600 in prop hours to a company owned by your affair partner, was that also a surprise? Those were legitimate business expenses. For lingerie and hotel rooms, Amy's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. It went on like that for 3 hours. By the end, Amy looked hollowed out. During a recess, I stepped outside for air. The January wind cut through my jacket, but I needed to clear my head. Alex was standing by the parking meters, smoking a cigarette. He saw me before I saw him. Dave. He flicked ash onto the sidewalk. Hell of a show in there. I stopped walking. What are you doing here? Moral support, he shrugged. Amy asked me to come, said it might help her nerves. Might help her nerves, I laughed. A short, bitter sound. You destroyed my family and you're here for moral support. I didn't destroy anything. Your marriage was already broken. I just happened to be there when she noticed. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the smoke on his breath. Here's what I noticed, Alex. I noticed my 11-year-old daughter drawing pictures of her mom's secret friend. I noticed $1,600 in fake invoices funneling money to your production company. I noticed my wife sneaking out at night while I worked 60-hour weeks to keep us afloat. He took a drag, exhaled slowly. Amy said you'd be dramatic. Amy said a lot of things. Most of them were lies. I straightened up. Go back to Pittsburgh, or wherever you're running to next. There's nothing for you here. Already planning to. He dropped the cigarette, ground it under his heel. You won, Dave. Congratulations. Hope the prize is worth it. He walked away, and I stood there in the cold, watching him go. The prize was Sophie. And yeah, it was worth it. Day 3 of the trial. My turn on the stand. Frank walked me through the timeline. The delivery, the discovery, the investigation. I kept my voice steady, even when the gel-haired lawyer tried to paint me as obsessive, controlling, paranoid. Mr. Harlan, isn't it true that you followed your wife's car on multiple occasions? I observed her movements from public spaces. Legal surveillance. Legal surveillance. He raised an eyebrow at the judge. Most husbands just have conversations with their wives. Most husbands aren't lied to for 2 months straight. Frank objected. The judge sustained, but the point had landed. The gel-haired lawyer tried a different angle. Mr. Harlan, would you describe yourself as a present father? Someone who's there for his daughter's daily needs? I work hard, long hours, but every moment I'm home, I'm with Sophie. Homework, bedtime stories, weekend adventures. Her teacher can testify to that. But you weren't home when your wife was feeling emotionally neglected, were you? I was out working to pay for our house, our car, her studio equipment. I leaned forward. I was out working so she could take on freelance clients like Alex Reynolds. Is that ironic enough for you? Someone in the gallery snorted. Even the judge looked like she was suppressing a smile. After court that day, Frank clapped me on the shoulder. You did good in there, stayed calm, didn't take the bait. Wanted to take the bait, but you didn't. That's what matters. The verdict came down 2 weeks later. Primary custody to me, 70-30 split in my favor. The judge cited documented pattern of deception and manipulation of the minor child as key factors. Sophie's stated preference to live primarily with me carried weight, given her age. The house went to me. The van's sale proceeds would be split. Marital assets divided equitably, but my overtime earnings offset some of Amy's claims. Final split was 55-45 in my favor, with restitution for the prop hour dissipation. Amy stood outside the courthouse afterward, tote bag over her shoulder, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Dave, please, for Sophie. Sophie's going to be fine. I started walking toward my car. She's got stability now. You're alienating her from me. I stopped, turned back. No, Amy. You did that yourself. Every secret, every lie, every time you made her cover for you, that was you, not me. This isn't fair. Neither was any of this. I opened my car door. You sketched her trust and used it for your own cover. Now you get to live with that. I drove away without looking back. The aftermath was messier than I'd expected. Amy couch-surfed for a few weeks. Her parents were in Florida, and most of her friends had heard enough to keep their distance. The design co-op completed their internal review and quietly removed her from their networking events. Alex's reputation finally caught up with him, and the last I heard, he'd moved to Pittsburgh to pursue new opportunities. But Amy didn't go quietly. Not even close. The first angry email arrived at 2:47 a.m., 3 days after the verdict. Subject line: "You ruined everything. Dave. You got what you wanted. Are you happy now?" Sophie barely looks at me during visits. You've turned her against me. This was never about her. This was about your ego. You couldn't stand that I found someone who actually understood me. Alex saw me as an artist, not just a wife and mother. You saw me as a housekeeper who happened to have a ring on her finger. I hope you're proud of yourself. Amy. I read it twice, then closed my laptop. No response. Nothing good would come from engaging. The second email came the next night. Then the third. Then they started coming during the day too. Long, rambling messages about how I'd poisoned Sophie's mind, how the court was biased, how Frank had manipulated the evidence. I forwarded every one of them to Frank. Keep documenting, he said. If this escalates, we'll need the paper trail. It escalated. Amy showed up unannounced one Saturday morning while Sophie was eating breakfast. I heard the car pull up, looked out the window to see her marching up the driveway. Stay here, bug. I met her at the front door before she could knock. I want to see my daughter. Your weekend is next week. You know the schedule? The schedule is ridiculous. I'm her mother. She tried to push past me. I blocked the door, not aggressively, just firmly. Amy, you can't just show up. Don't tell me what I can't do. Her voice was rising. You stole her from me, Dave. You and your little investigator and your lawyer and everyone else who decided I don't deserve my own child. Mommy? Sophie was standing in the hallway behind me, breakfast cereal still in her hand. Her eyes were wide. Amy's face crumpled. Sophie, baby, Mommy just wanted to… I'll see you next weekend, Mom. Sophie's voice was small but steady. That's the schedule. Amy stared at her for a long moment. Then she looked at me, tears streaming down her face. You did this. You did this. I kept my voice calm. Now please leave. You're scaring her. She left. I held Sophie for 10 minutes while she cried into my shirt. The gal documented that incident and the two that followed. After Amy tried to pick Sophie up from school without authorization, a move that sent the school into lockdown protocol, the court issued a formal warning. Further alienation attempts would result in reduced visitation. She stopped after that. Settled into her every other weekend schedule. Started seeing a therapist of her own, according to Sophie. Mom cries a lot now, Sophie told me one Sunday evening after Amy dropped her off. She says she's sorry. How do you feel about that? Sophie considered the question with the seriousness only a 12-year-old can muster. I think she means it, but I also think she's mostly sorry she got caught. I didn't argue with her. She wasn't wrong. Is it okay if I still love her? Sophie asked, smaller now. Even after everything? I pulled her into a hug. Of course it is, Bug. She's your mom. You're allowed to love her and be mad at her at the same time. Those two things can exist together. That's confusing. Yeah. I kissed the top of her head. Growing up usually is. By March, Amy had found an apartment in Wilkes Barre. Small but decent, close enough for weekend visits. She'd started rebuilding her freelance business, taking on smaller clients, staying away from the networking scene that had gotten her in trouble. The angry emails had stopped. The surprise visits had stopped. Our handoffs became civil, if not exactly warm. One Saturday, she pulled me aside before picking up Sophie. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. She wouldn't meet my eyes. But thank you for not poisoning her against me. I know you could have. That was never the goal. I know. She finally looked up. I'm working on myself, Dave. Therapy, boundaries, all of it. I know it doesn't fix what I did, but it helps, I said. Sophie notices when you're better, and that matters. She nodded, something unspoken passing between us. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but something like acknowledgement. Two people who'd hurt each other, trying to do better for the kid they both loved. Take care of yourself, Amy. You too, Dave. Sophie ran out to the car, sketchpad under her arm, waving goodbye. I watched them pull away, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel that familiar knot in my chest. Spring came slowly that year. I put in for a promotion at the warehouse, day shift supervisor, better hours, more time at home. Marcus put in a good word. The interview went well. And there was Mia. Mia Reyes taught 4th grade at Sophie's school. We'd met at a parent-teacher conference back in October, exchanged a few words about Sophie's progress. She had warm brown eyes and a laugh that made you want to hear it again. After the divorce was finalized, I ran into her at a coffee shop near the school. She was grading papers. I was killing time before pickup. Mr. Harlan, she smiled up at me. How's the shift treating you? Better, actually. Day hours now. Means I can do afternoon pickup. Sophie must love that. She tolerates me, I grinned. How's the 4th grade rebellion this year? She laughed, that laugh, and gestured to the stack of papers. Enthusiastic, if grammatically challenged. Mind if I sit? Please. She pushed her papers aside. I could use a break from circling misplaced commas. We talked for 20 minutes, then 30. Then I looked at my watch and realized I was late for pickup. Yeah, me too. But neither of us moved right away. Maybe we could get coffee again sometime, I said. When you're not drowning in grammar crises? She smiled. I'd like that. Our first real date was 2 weeks later, a quiet dinner at a place downtown that Marcus's wife had recommended. Mia wore a blue dress that made her eyes look even warmer than usual. I should be up front, I said, somewhere between appetizers and entrees. I'm coming off a divorce. Ugly one. I've got an 11-year-old daughter who's my whole world, and I've got more baggage than a Samsonite factory. Mia set down her wine glass. I appreciate the honesty. I'm coming off a broken engagement. My ex decided he wanted to find himself 3 months before the wedding. Found himself in Bali with a yoga instructor. Ouch. It was a journey, she shrugged. But here's what I've learned. Everyone's got baggage. It's whether you help each other carry it that matters. That's surprisingly wise for someone still recovering from Bali. She laughed. I've had time to think. We talked until the restaurant started putting chairs on tables. Walked to our cars in comfortable silence. When we reached her Honda, she turned to face me. I had a really nice time, Dave. Me too. And for what it's worth? She tilted her head. Sophie's lucky to have a dad who fights for her. A lot of parents check out when things get hard. You didn't. Couldn't. She's everything. I know, Mia smiled. That's why I said yes to coffee. The summer passed in a blur of little league games and art camp and weekend barbecues with Marcus and his kids. Sophie turned 12 in July. A pool party, a lopsided homemade cake, and a new sketch pad she'd been eyeing for months. Mia came to the party, helped Sophie blow out the candles, stayed late to help me clean up. She's amazing, Mia said, watching Sophie show her latest monster drawings to Marcus's daughter. You've done a good job with her. She does most of the heavy lifting. I dried a plate. I just show up. That's more than a lot of parents do. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Somewhere along the way, our shoulders started brushing. Our hands started finding excuses to touch. Dave. She turned to me, dish towel in her hands. I know this year has been a lot. And I'm not trying to rush anything, but, but I really like spending time with you and Sophie, and I wanted you to know that. I set down the plate I was holding. I really like spending time with you too. Okay, she smiled. Good. That's good. I kissed her then. Soft, careful, like she was something precious. She kissed me back. From the living room, I heard Sophie's voice. Gross. Dad, we can see you. Mia laughed against my lips. Busted. Worth it. Sophie grilled me about Mia for the rest of the week. So is she your girlfriend now? We're seeing each other. What does that mean? It means we go on dates and spend time together and see if we work well as a team. Like Batman and Robin. More like two people figuring stuff out. Sophie considered this. I think she's nice. She helped me with my birthday card design. You approve then? I approve. She paused. But if you start kissing in front of my friends again, I'm calling Child Protective Services. Noted. Fall came again. 1 year since that drizzly Wednesday, that apartment door, that name that unraveled everything. I was promoted in September. Day shift supervisor, just like I'd hoped. Better hours, better pay, more time with Sophie. Mia and I had been dating for 3 months. Nothing rushed, nothing complicated. Just two people who'd found something good and weren't in a hurry to mess it up. Sophie approved. She'd started calling Mia Ms. M, with a familiarity that made me smile. They bonded over art supplies and terrible puns, and sometimes I'd come home to find them both at the kitchen table, covered in paint, laughing at nothing. Amy's visits had stabilized. She'd gotten an apartment in Wilkes Barre, started rebuilding her freelance business. She still cried sometimes when she dropped Sophie off, but she'd stopped blaming me for it. One Sunday in October, Sophie came home with a drawing she'd made at Amy's place. A family portrait, but different from the ones she used to make. 2 houses now. Me and Sophie in one. Amy in another. And between them, Sophie herself, drawn as a bridge connecting both. What do you think? She asked, watching my face. I looked at the drawing, at the care she'd put into it, the colors she'd chosen, the way she'd made both houses look warm and safe. I think you're going to be an incredible artist someday, Bug, she beamed. Dad, I'm already incredible. Yeah, I ruffled her hair. You really are. Thanksgiving that year was at Marcus's place, a crowded table full of warehouse guys and their families. Mia's hand in mine under the table, Sophie leading the kids in some elaborate game she'd invented. After dinner, Marcus pulled me aside in the kitchen. You good, Harlan? I watched Sophie through the doorway, laughing at something Marcus's son had said. Watched Mia help clear plates, comfortable and easy in this house full of strangers. Yeah, I said. I think I am. Took you long enough? Took me exactly as long as it needed to, he snorted. Getting philosophical in your old age. Getting something. December. First anniversary of the divorce being finalized. I didn't mark it on the calendar, but I knew. I was putting up Christmas lights with Sophie when my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Heard about the co-op cleanup. Your daughter's lucky to have someone who fights that hard. Carla. I stared at the message for a moment, then pocketed my phone. Dad? Sophie was tangled in a string of lights. Little help? Coming, Bug. I climbed down from the ladder and started untangling her. Above us, the lights flickered on, warm and steady against the cold. Christmas Eve. Mia's family came down from New York. Sophie was vibrating with excitement over presents and cookies and staying up late. After everyone had gone to bed, Mia and I sat on the porch, watching snow fall over the neighborhood. Good year? She asked. Better than expected. I took her hand. You're a big part of that. Sophie's a big part of it too. She's resilient. She's incredible. I watched the snow settle on the lawn. Gets that from her dad. Mia laughed. And the humility? Also from her dad. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Happy Christmas, Dave. Happy Christmas, Mia. New Year's Eve. Sophie was at a sleepover with Marcus's daughter. Mia and I had the house to ourselves. We'd talked about moving in together. Talked about the future. Nothing decided yet, nothing rushed. Just possibilities taking shape. At midnight, we stood on the porch with champagne, watching fireworks burst over the neighborhood. To fresh starts, Mia said, raising her glass. To fresh starts. I clinked mine against hers. And to never delivering another TV to apartment 3B. She laughed. I thought that story was your origin story. It is. I sipped my champagne. Doesn't mean I want a sequel. March. Sophie's art show at school. The spring showcase, bigger than the fall one. Her monsters had evolved into elaborate creatures with backstories and ecosystems. One of her pieces had won an honorable mention. Mia was there. Amy was there too. We'd gotten better at occupying the same space without combusting. She's talented, Amy said, standing beside me as Sophie explained her winning piece to a crowd of impressed parents. She is. I'm sorry, Dave, for everything. She wasn't looking at me. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I know you do. We stood in silence for a moment, watching our daughter shine. She's lucky, Amy said finally, to have you. She's got both of us, I said. That's what matters. April. Mia moved in. Sophie helped us carry boxes, and by evening the three of us were exhausted, sprawled on the living room floor surrounded by packing paper. This is good, Sophie said, looking around at the chaos. It feels right. Mia squeezed my hand. It does. I looked at them. My daughter, my partner, our house full of boxes and possibilities. Yeah, I said. It really does. There's a moment at the end of a long delivery route when you finally pull back into the warehouse lot. The engine shuts off, the radio goes quiet, and for just a second everything is still. That's how life felt now. Not perfect. Life's never perfect. But still. Settled. Sophie was thriving. Mia was there, steady and warm. The job was good. The house was home. And somewhere out there, a guy in a faded Pearl Jam tee was probably unboxing another TV for another woman who'd promised it would arrive on time. Not my problem anymore. I clocked out, grabbed my keys, and headed home.